All right, welcome to our latest series focused on the LGBTQ community. The objective of this four-part series is to increase awareness about this community, and I'm confident that all of you will enjoy and learn from our expert speaker. Before I get to our expert speaker, I just want to take a couple of minutes for all of us to reflect, acknowledge, and salute the courage and bravery of our armed forces. Their continuous sacrifices provide us with the freedom to live our lives in a manner of our choosing. And I think it's at a moment like this that one really sort of realizes the enormity and magnitude of the sacrifices they're making for us currently at the border. So I just wanted to take a few seconds, a pause, and just once again acknowledge and salute the courage and bravery of those guarding the borders of India at this point of time. Okay, moving on. I'd like to now introduce our guest speaker for this event, Suresh Ramdas. For those of you who are meeting him for the first time, I can tell you this, that Suresh enjoys a near cult-like popularity amongst the LGBTQ community. And once you get to know him after this webinar, I suspect you will also feel the same way. Suresh works as an LGBTQ advocate for inclusion in the corporate space, as an out gay man who is also the winner of Mr. Gay India 2019. He has over 15 plus years of experience in training, project management, and customer support. He is the global chief as his day job. He is also the chair of HP India Pride BIN as his day job. He's also the founder of Working with Pride Group. After he completed the LGBTQ Executive Leadership Program from Stanford University and became a certified diversity professional and a certified practitioner, he co-facilitated a leadership program called Leading with Pride for the LGBTQ plus community, people that helps build leaders for tomorrow. He is featured as 2019's Outstanding 50 LGBTQ plus future leader. Suresh, welcome. It's terrific to have you in our sort of four-part series on the LGBTQ community. It's terrific to have you here, and thank you so much for having taken time out of your busy schedule from your day job and your gay job. Before we sort of, I hand the mic over to Suresh, I just want to tell our viewers a little bit about the webinar series that we have planned. We have a three-part, it's actually a four-part series, of which we're going to kind of walk through the first three parts today, and then the fourth part will really be kind of a summary of these three parts, and may even have more guests as well. We'll come to that later. Today's session is going to focus on understanding the LGBTQ plus community. Suresh is actually going to walk you through his personal and professional life and the challenges he's faced and where he's at today in an effort to sort of build greater awareness with respect to the challenges and difficulties that the community faces. Our next sort of session will focus on 377 and how it has changed, or has it changed Indian society and workplaces, particularly with an emphasis on corporate workplaces. And the third webinar will focus on workplace diversity, the value of LGBTQ plus employees and the role of allies. This one is particularly important for those of you who work in corporates, maybe HR, L&D, maybe any other professional who would like to know more about how to build a more inclusive workplace. This is where Suresh can add sort of more value in that sense by sharing his own personal experience, so to speak. So that's sort of the series that we have lined up for you, really. The objective is for all of you to ask questions. I think Suresh is going to pause a couple of times during the course of the webinar. So at any of those times, please feel free to ask Suresh questions. I had checked with Suresh before the webinar started. Suresh, is any question off limits, and are there anything that we should not ask? And Suresh said no. I want this to be a webinar where anybody can ask everything. So all questions are on the table. So feel free to ask whatever you'd like uh, to Suresh, and Suresh will obviously answer it to the best of his ability. Um, to simplify it for some of you, I also want to add that this webinar series is going to be a bit like the A to Z of the LGBTQ plus community. For those of you who know little and would like to know more, this is a perfect opportunity. And to use a phrase that a friend of mine used to use way back in college, this is also, you could also call this the dummy's guide to the LGBTQ plus community. So I think I've spoken enough, and I'm going to sort of hand the mic over to Suresh. Suresh, over to you. It would be great if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your life, your journey, and then we can sort of continue with the rest of the session.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Anthony, and thank you so much, Rainmaker team, for putting this together. Really appreciate this. And being the Pride Month, so happy Pride Month, everyone. And thank you so much for all the attendees to join in during, this Friday. So a little bit about me. First and foremost, my pronouns are he, him, his. That's how I'd like to be addressed. And so as Anthony has said, I work in I work at HP, and I've been there for the last 16 plus years and having a great time, but also, this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I really want to drive the whole conversation around, awareness about my community and really take that forward. Before we go forward, a quick poll that I would like to go ahead and ask you all to fill in is that just to understand where you all are coming from, what your work is all about. So I'll just shoot out this poll for you all, and can you just tell us your profession and also your gender? Ideally it's supposed to be sex, but it's gender. All right. So yeah. Quickly, so that we get an understanding of where y'all are from and what y'all are doing. All right. Okay, great. So we have 65% of the people polling. Come on, the rest.
Was there?
All right, so great. We see quite a few people. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, so great. So we have a good understanding of where people are coming from and who they are. So wonderful. So with that being said, for me, this specific statement really holds good, right? If not you, who? And if not now, when? I wish I had known this before, but then it was only during my work life that I really got to know, and I was reading quite a bit, and I kind of figured this out, and it resonated. So with that being said, this is going to be a more of an conversation where I want you all to really think. Come with an open mind. I would invite you all with an open mind. Be like a sponge. Squeeze out the extra water that you all have, or whatever that is there in that sponge. Squeeze it out and be as empty as possible so that you can absorb all the information that I'm going to share today. So one more poll that I'm going to ask you all to do is answer this question. Is there a difference between gender and sex? You'll have quick 30 seconds. And that's absolutely fine if you all think it's no difference, or if you're not sure, that's pick one, right? So you'll have to pick one option here. So do that, and we'll go about with that. Okay, good. Numbers are coming in. All right. 65% of them have completed. We need more people. Come on.
It's just a yes and no after all.
Yes, yeah, great. Okay.
We're still at 70%, but I think more people are joining, so that number has kind of remained static. But I think more people are taking the survey now.
All right, great. So we have a good understanding. So good. So we're going to end the poll now. And we do get to see, let me quickly share the results because it's anonymous. So it's even better, right? So we see that 82% of them have said that there is a difference, while 18% have said, no, there is no difference. So very good. I'm very happy that people have been honest. So there is a difference. So the answer is yes, there is a difference, and we will talk about that. So here we're going to be going to basics and getting to understand a lot more in detail, right? So what is gender? Gender is pretty much a social construct of the roles and behaviors that people are supposed to be a part of. So it could be in regards to expression, the way you speak, the way you talk. All of that is your gender, right? So sex is predominantly your physical biological attributes, which includes your genitalia, which includes your chromosomes, your hormones, your gene expressions, and all of that encompasses your sex. All right. So sex, gender, different, right? So with that understanding that you all have around gender and sex, we're going to go to a broader aspect of understanding a lot more. It's a spectrum. So here we call it as a gender bread person. So where we're going to talk about a person's gender identity, a person's expression, a person's attraction, and the sex, right? I know you will be getting to hear a lot of this word, three-letter word sex, in a different context. So please don't mind that. I know most of us in India are very hesitant to talk about this, but today you're going to get to hear a lot. So what is gender identity? All right. So gender identity is nothing but what you really think about you and yourself within you. It's about your experience, about how or whom you want to define yourself to be. This is outside your social construct. As a person, right from your growing up days, every person goes through, a process of understanding, assimilation, information, and all of that. So that is something to do with your identity. Now, attraction is again more romantic and sexual, right? Um, this also is something which comes inborn, it's natural, and you cannot force anybody for anything. This is something which is very important for a fact is that uh, you cannot ask somebody to love somebody or somebody that you really like. It should come from within. So that's why they say feelings, expressions, emotions, all of that come from within. So that is attraction. And expression is about gender expression is about how as an individual you want to express yourself to the world. How do you want to see the world to perceive you? So all of that comes through with regarding to it could be with your name, your body language, your clothing. All of that is a form of expression. And lastly is the sex, right? So which is the physical traits that you see again with regarding to your genitalia and your characteristics, which are for a specific sex. So here you have male, female, and intersex, right? So male people have the genitalia of a penis, while women have a vagina and breast, while intersex people are somebody who have both. All right. It can be seen initially when they are born as kids, or at times you don't get to see that. It happens only when you hit puberty. So a lot of the parents and doctors included, go ahead and talk about intersex people at a very, when they are kids. So there is a statistics that 1 in every 2,000 kids born are intersex. But you don't really get to know that because parents and doctors decide what their sex should be and they do the required operation if they have both the genitalia. Now, if they do not have that, then you would not know. But when they hit puberty, they will start seeing and seeing the differences. That's wherein there is a lot of issues. I wouldn't say issues, but there's a lot of confusion within a person as to who they really are. But your society has a construct that boys have to behave a certain way, girls have to behave a certain way. So they are confused because their body is really not tuned to that, whatever they're seeing. So those are intersex people. Now, having said that, I know a lot of them already have questions around, so who are transgender people? Are they the same? No, they're not the same. So transgender people are people who transition from one sex to the other sex, right? So they transition from male to female, they're called trans women. And when they transition from female to male, they're called trans men. Trans is transitioning, and they go as a man or a woman is to where they end up with, right? So that is transgender community people. Now, again, adding on more to your whole gender bread of the previous slide, identity again is more about whom you really think, who you really want to be, whom you're very comfortable with. It all depends on that. Again, very social construct, right? As I said, gender is very social construct, and to try to fit into that, it's not going to be easy. But at the same time, the expectation is there that you need to fit into one of the boxes. So here we want to tell you all that it is a spectrum. It's not binary. It is not 0 and 1. There is, I would say, call it not from between 0 and 1, I would say between 0 and 100, right? So the expectation of a boy should be only to play games of certain type. Girls should play games of certain types. But, when you like something, why don't you go do that? But then the society comes back and says, no, you're not supposed to do that, right? The same goes with gender expression. Girls have to have long hair, boys short hair, no long hair, and the way you kind of really express, you should be very manly. You cannot swing your hands a lot. You cannot sway and talk as boys, and boys shouldn't cry, while girls all the time cry. If they don't cry, then there's an issue, right? So these are all the social construct. Now, that is something, again, we need to get away with and let the person express who they want to be. Now, with regarding to anatomical sex as well, sorry, you can just go back, Anthony. Yeah. So with regarding to anatomical sex also, if you see, body hair, your, chest growth for men, and then, breasts for women, and then you have your hormones, your chromosomes, your voice pitch, all of that is also a range. There's nothing that only men have to have, this much percentage or 100% of, the chromosomes and hormones and everything should be at that. It is not the case. The same thing with regarding to sex assigned at birth, which is again something that you see when the kid is born, right? So that's why I said male, female, and intersex. So just get an understanding of that. And lastly is with regarding to the sexual attraction versus romantic attraction, right? Sexual attraction is also again varied. Sexually attracted to the same sex, homosexuals, attracted to opposite sex, heterosexuals, attracted to both of them, bisexuals, and then you have a lot wherein they can be asexual as well, where they're not sexually attracted to anybody, or they're attracted to many people, which is pansexual, right? So I'm not going to bog you down with too much information. This is the basics, right? And romantically attraction also is something that I would say that we all have that emotion, that feeling, that love. That is also something which is not, confined to only opposite sex. You also have, love, emotions towards the same sex, but you call that a different name as part of the straight world. But moment you say, oh, I love my best friend, then nowadays people question that whole process. You're gay. I don't know if you all know in villages, but boys till date, they go ahead and hold on to each other's pinky, the little finger, and they walk around. which is very derogatory looked at in the West, because that's not how they really perceive. But here it is more towards, the friendship that you really build, and you do it
Right.
only with friends, right? So with all of this information that you all have now, quickly want to kind of shout out, do you all have any questions on this as what we have covered before I get into the next topic?
Suresh, you can see in the chat window the questions.
Okay, all right. Different. Okay, all right. Yes, we will go ahead and answer that.
Let people
Okay.
give some thought.
Yeah, so moving on. So what does LGBTQIA plus mean? A lot of them initially were thinking, it's only LGBTQ. Now, where is the I coming from? Where is the A coming from? Oh my God, it's too much, right? So let's break it down. We keep it simple, but these are some of the most prominent ones that we will be talking about, which is LGBTQIA plus. Now, L is for lesbian, a female who has who's attracted to the same sex, which is to another female, lesbian. Here you have three amazing personalities who are out lesbians. So these two are the lawyers who fought really hard for Section 377 to go away, and they are Menaka and Arundhati. And the third personality that you see, who is a very good person in sports, Duty Chand, she's an out lesbian as well, right? So I want to kind of bring in some relatability so that you all can know that, it's not something which is very Western. We are there, very much there, and we want to give names. So the next is G. So G is gay. So I'm gay. As a male person, I love, or I get attracted to another man. And here we have two amazing, well-known personalities. On the left-hand side is the out gay prince, Manvinder Singh Gohil. And on the right side is Keshav Suri, who is the man who's the owner of Lalit group of hotels. Right, so very important for you all to know and be there. And both of them, again, are married to their respective partners, and they're living happy life. So moving on, B are bisexual, and somebody who's attracted to both the sexes, right? So I don't know if you all have heard about Lily Singh, who came out as an open bisexual person. And she says that there are times or there are days when I am attracted to both men and women. It's not days, it's the emotion that they have. Don't ask people why they're bisexual. It is like, it's kind of very rude to ask them, like, can you just pick one? It's not, that easy. It's again, something that you are born with, where you have attraction probably to one of the sexes. Here they have it with both, all right? So moving on, next is T, which is the transgender community, right? So as I clearly said before, so transgender people are one who transition from one sex to the other. And here we have two amazing personalities, Lakshmi Tripathi, an out vocal trans woman. And then on the right, you have Aryan Pasha, who's a trans man, very well known. He is, been famous with his regarding to his bodybuilding, and he's done India proud in many of the platforms. You don't get to see a lot of trans men being out there vocal. There are various reasons, right? So we'll not go to that specifics, but right now it is there that the trans women and the trans men are really taking stride and wanting to be more visible. Next, moving on, is queer or questioning. All right, so somebody who doesn't want to again fit into or identify themselves as lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and so they don't like this whole stereotype conversation. So they say, I'm queer, in the sense like, I really don't know, but I'm not straight. And I'm still questioning, I'm still identifying, where do I fit into this spectrum? So during that point, they call themselves queer. And there are many out queer people, but not very famous for you all to kind of be relatable. So here I've brought in Sam Smith, who is an out queer person, and they prefer to be called as, their pronouns are they, them. That's how they want to be addressed, and move forward. So I is again intersex, a person who has both chromosomes, and they have the male and the female parts. So here we have an out person, Gopi Shankar Madurai. So he's an out intersex person, absolutely advocating work for the intersex community, which is again very not represented that much now. There are people coming forward, having conversations and bringing awareness about the community. And lastly, you have A and A plus. So A is an ally. So all you 49 attendees who've joined in today, y'all are by default allies, I would say, right? Whether y'all are, or y'all have started your journey as being allies. And here we have Selena Jaitley as one of the well-known vocal allies for the LGBT community. She speaks a lot for the community, and she's done a lot as well, right? So very important. And lastly, plus is to be inclusive of everybody else who is under the big umbrella bucket, right? So we cannot say all the alphabets from A to Z. So we said, let's put plus. And this also includes, we want to include people who are also HIV positive, which is very important. They are also another, group of, or another community who are really pushed out, not recognized, not spoken about, and all of that. So we want to be inclusive of them. All right. Yeah. So now that we have an understanding, I'm sorry. Yes, Anthony?
One question, if I may, Suresh.
Yeah.
Going back to intersex, they are intersex individuals are those who have chosen to retain, sort of their body parts the way they were born. Is yes. That it? And they've chosen not to have an operation or a surgery to pick one or the other.
Yes. But then, from a growing stages, at times parents decide that, and when they grow and when they hit puberty, you really don't know what happens within the body, right? So that's wherein there is a lot of gender dysphoria, which happens through that. Because maybe the parents decided, oh, okay, can you make that kid a boy? So then they go through the whole operation process and try to go ahead and bring up that boy, the kid, to be a boy. But when the kid is growing up, they don't recognize or they don't relate to it, right? So that's when the whole it is very confusing. We are the most privileged and out people there, where we are okay with who we are. So that's also pretty much the same with the transgender community people. For us, we look at ourselves in the mirror and we are absolutely fine with that. Yes, though we have, issues like, oh, I wish I had a better nose, better jawline and all of that, but you're able to relate to the body that you have. But there are a lot of people who are just not able to relate to the body that they have. And they go through a lot of conversations within themselves, and it is confusing. They want to behave a certain way, but they are told not to behave a certain way. And, so that's when they decide to transition. But again, transgender people, not everybody goes through the operation process or the gender reassignment surgery, it's called. Not everybody goes through that, because in India, it is still not very properly done. They say that it's legal, but most of them are guinea pigs, by the doctors. They are on trials, and invariably, permanently, they are, harmed, and they have to be on medications. There are a lot of issues that the transgender community people go through, especially the trans women. If you even look at the Hijra community also, which is very prominent across the country, and they go through not a proper process of transitioning. A lot of them just do unhealthy process but the whole point is they just want to free themselves and be their true self. Right. So with that, they're ready to even give up their lives.
If you are the parent of a child that is intersex, the advice for them would be to let the child grow up and make a choice.
Yes.
Rather than imposing one.
I would say that for everybody. I would say that not only for an intersex kid, for any kid, let them grow, let them, figure themselves out, and then let them be themselves. So, that's how it should
I
be.
mentioned intersex
Yeah.
because if a parent does a surgery on a intersex child, it may be irreversible, right?
Yes.
You put that
Yes.
child in a position where they are mentally something else, but
Yeah.
physically forced to pick one. So hence, avoid that.
Yes, definitely. Yes. At any point in time, it's always, we need to leave the choice to the kid as to who they want to be. And especially if they're intersex, it is, just by doing an outward operation and changing the sex is not going to really help, because whatever is happening inside, you really have no idea or no control over. So it's always good that, especially for intersex, child, it is always better that they decide and they go through. A lot of them don't want to go through the process because it is not easy. Surgeries over surgeries is not going to be good on the body as well. It's always good, let them decide and go through. All right. So now that we have gone through the understanding of, what gender and sex is, the whole spectrum, and who LGBTQIA plus people are, so I hope you all now know that this is not something which is a Western culture. This is something that I want to really strongly talk about. The fact is, yes, it is not a Western culture. It has been very much there. So that's why this picture, no matter how provocative it is, but this is there very much in India. So this is there in Khajuraho temple. This is a temple where they depict all the sexual actions and the positions and all of that. So we shouldn't be shy. We are the land of Kama Sutra. We kind of pretty much invented sex, and we told people how to have, amazing sex, right? And beat off with anybody. So here you would see there's orgy, there's homosexual act going, there's bisexual act in the middle, and there are lesbians, and then there's again, multiple, again, bisexuality happening, which is thrown around everywhere in that temple. And even in most of the temples and places of worship, we do see a lot of scriptures and conversations going around that.
So at
And
what point of time did we become prudes, Suresh? Was it the British?
yes. Yes, Britishers came in and made us feel shitty. I would say made us feel shitty of our own culture, which has been very open and honest. And yes, we do have issues, but then I think overall acceptance for who we are and how we were, that was absolutely fine. Britishers came and made us feel shitty about many things, right? So especially about the transgender community also, they said they need to be killed and removed, and they should be banished from this earth. There have been a lot of places and texts and conversations where they have mentioned that, for God's sakes, they even made us feel crappy about our skin tone.
Correct.
We were 80% of us are actually brown skinned people. It's just that Britishers came in and then they said, we are the fairest sex and we are the best, and everybody should be fair, or people who are fair are the best. But that's not the case. You go to any of the old temple, I mean, not temples, even your palaces and all of that, you see the actual skin tone of everybody is not fair. Majority of them are not fair. It's dark. And I was just watching this, video on YouTube by Jane Elliott, who's a diversity leader in the United States, who was talking a lot about racism. So she said that, everybody has genes wherein the first lady or the woman was from Africa. So everybody has genes of a black woman, if you really have to call it. So because they went away from equator, so their eating habits changed, and that's the reason why the melanin in your body again got really varied, and that's where your whole skin tone came into picture. So I that was an eye opener for me as well. But I knew that in India this is how it is. Majority of them are dark skinned people and or brown skinned people, but they made us feel crappy about our skin tone. So yes, to come back, they made a big mess of it, and that's how the law also really came into picture, right? if you look at the law, Section 377 was nothing but a British fabricated way of trying to constrain your habits of sexuality and sex, right? They made us feel, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. So here they kind of even brought this about the fact that I'm highlighting this for a simple fact is carnal intercourse against the order of nature with any man, woman, or animal. Right? I understand with animals it has to be punished, and that's law is still there after Supreme Court got away with Section 377. But the portion is there that bestiality is considered punishable. But carnal intercourse against the order of nature, which means that this law is applicable was applicable even to the straight people. The heterosexual people were also can be booked under Section 377. The reason being, you should have sex only when you decide to procreate. That is only when you decide to have offsprings, you should have sex. Otherwise, sex should not be be done for pleasure. That's what it says. Against the order of nature means all your pleasurable acts, oral sex is considered against the order of nature. So y'all are actually, y'all could be booked or the straight people could be booked behind or put behind bars for the simple fact is if you'll engage in pleasure acts, then it is against the order of nature. So
the British essentially imposed their sort of moral thinking, moral code, the Western Christian way of thinking in the sort of 15th to 18th centuries.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a Christian way because even before in those times, if you see, homosexuality was very much there. You can see in the Napoleon, the Romans very much celebrated homosexuality and all of that. If you go to Spain or everywhere, it was absolutely, acceptable to, have sex with the same gender and, get married to the opposite sex and, go on with it. There is this story which I heard from a Britisher quite a few years back as to where did this really stem from. Now, Britishers were, United Kingdom is nothing but a tiny island, right? But they set out to rule the world. Now, to rule the world, they had most of their men going out and waging wars. And when they wage wars, they kill people or they rape the women out there. And they, the procreation aspect of, pure blood is not really there when, they are in wars. And women don't go to wars. Men have testosterone built up because of the, the wars and the travel, the loneliness. So to kind of get away with, some fun, they used to have sex with each other, right? But when they used to come back, they didn't really feel the need to have sex with a woman because they started enjoying this.
Okay.
So because there was no procreation happening here when they come back, so they said, you know what, let's go ahead and put a full stop to this. That's wherein the law really came into picture. So if you go to the next slide, so the Buggery Act or, which is called Section 377 now that's where it really stemmed from. Now also an FYI, go look at all the places that the Britishers went and colonized, especially their port areas were very, very free in the sense, the people just turned a blind eye towards what was happening because they said the law is there. But, who's going to impose a law when you're going to another country and, kind of trying to do things there? So they went ahead and made sure that the port areas were very gay friendly. That's why you go to any of the well-known places, they are also port areas and homosexuality was very much there. You can go back to history and really get an understanding of that. So they went back to their own country and they sorted with the law and they left the rest of the world to go ahead and fend for themselves, right? So again here, sorry.
Suresh, if it is fair to therefore say that the British passed the Buggery Act or homosexuality was criminalized in Britain and in other parts of the world where they ruled because
Yes.
they enjoyed homosexuality that much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. And yeah, they went back and fixed it for themselves. And the fact was, they let everybody else suffer for, I mean, figure it out if they want to do it or not. But in India, again, very specific to India, 200 years they ruled us, and they really messed our brains up for that, for everything. They have done good, but they've done more bad possible. So here, coming back to the law, I would just go back to the last 10 years, what we have really done, especially since the time 2009 judgment by the Delhi High Court to 2018, where homosexuality was legalized, which is very important to know that we've been fighting for as many years as possible. And this is just the last. I mean, there is a long list. There are documents and information being made available. Now, 2013 Supreme Court reversed. 2014 was another high regard for the transgender community people, because they recognize the trans people. So that's why now in all your government forms, everywhere you see male, female, others. So giving an opportunity for the transgender community to be integrated into the society. And then 2017 actually paved path for legalization of homosexuality, was the rights to privacy. So whatever happens in the four walls of anybody's house is nobody's business, right? So with that, it kind of really helped us and gain mileage to get away with Section 377. With that being said, yes, September 6, 2018 is what I would call, or I would like people to really start celebrating, is India's Independence Day for the LGBTQ community people. Because yes, we have got the freedom, and we are finally accepting, or acknowledging, the countries acknowledging our presence, and we are very much there. So I would say September 6th, or the month of September, is India's Pride Month. Right. So with that, again, there's a lot more work to do. Yes, we need a lot of rights and a lot of other things. But yes, that's the first step. And 2019 was the transgender bill, which was not the right way of putting it in, because the people who formed this so-called act, they didn't have too many trans people to be a part of the board. They just got it out very derogatory. A lot of them are fighting for it, to make changes to it. There's a lot of conversations happening. So yes, we need work to do. There is a lot more work to be done, but yeah, bringing that whole rights is required, because we need to help and support the transgender community people. So with that, do you all have any questions? Yeah, because I'm going to go into my story after this.
I think we'll take questions at the end, Suresh. I think
the end? Okay.
That's typically the way our webinars go. Everybody saves
okay.
the end. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So with that, I'm going to quickly walk you all through, or through my story, which was a fun ride, but also had some ups and downs. So this is me, my childhood. I was born in Mumbai, the second born, and spoiled and loved by everybody. As you can see, it was a happy phase of my life where didn't get beaten up too much for all the mistakes that I did and all of that. So childhood, parents loved me for who I am. I never kind of got that differentiation for whatever I was. I was just a free bird doing things that I wanted to do. So when I moved to Mysore for my schooling, that's where, the real conversation or the challenges started off. Was I was being bullied for my skin color. So I was dark, but at home, mom's fair, dad's dark. And we kind of really didn't have that kind of conversation as to, oh my God, how can you be so dark? Or, okay, you should be fair. So in school, right away, I was being bullied for that. And I really didn't like it. And to top it off, during my school days, my behaviors, mannerisms all started not as a stereotype like how a boy should be. So I used to be a little effeminate, and I used to speak like a singer-song, or I used to wave my hands and be very expressive in my conversations. And if I fall or get hurt, I used to cry. And people are like, that's a very girly habit. So with that, conversation started name callings. Name callings became a part and parcel of my life all through until college. I was called Hijra, Chakka, Umbatu in Karnataka, which is, used as a derogatory word. And then for my skin color, I was always called Kala, Kalia, all of that. So there was this phase in my school time which I really hated, and I took an extreme step. But I will talk to you all that in a little. What was that? I will tell you all later. But I somehow managed to get through that, and no matter what name calling used to happen, I used to, look look down, go forward because I knew I had to do it, and that continued in college as well. And I hated team sports. The reason why I put those pictures on either extreme is to kind of say I loved solo sports. While on the left hand side you can see group, things where I was forced to play team sports like football, cricket, which I hate. But I enjoyed the solo sports like all the athletics like running and shot put, javelin throw, tennis more so ever, because that place or that experience gave me an opportunity to be away from my bullies. Cricket, football, I had to play with my bullies who were there, and I had to smile or laugh, or they used to crack jokes, and I couldn't say much. But in college, I really fought hard. Again, I was staying away from my parents, so bullying again was a part and parcel. But that's when I really realized who I truly was. In school, I knew that I was different because a lot of my school friends, we're talking about the opposite sex. Like boys used to talk about girls, girls used to talk about guys and say, "Oh, how cute! Oh, he's so sweet! Oh, she's so nice and lovely." And I was like, no. I had this thing with my classmate, and then I had this feeling towards my classmate, and somebody senior to me who was again a boy, and I was like, what is this happening with me? Am I different? And all of those conversations, confusions came in, and I could not talk about this to anybody because I didn't see anybody else talking about it. So I felt I was like, am I the only person? And that continued till college. And thanks to internet, I was able to understand and know that I'm not the only one. There are so many other people like me around the world. I think one of the days when I was going back to my hostel room, I kind of said this to myself, Suresh, I think you're gay. And then I said, no, I am gay, and that feeling was one of the best feelings that I had. I was able to go ahead and tell that to myself and be happy. So that was a happy moment for me. And the next happy moment in college that I was really able to relate to was the fact that I came out to my best friend. For reasons, there are so many reasons I had to tell him because I was exploding and I wanted to tell this to somebody. And I told this to my best friend, but I was super scared that I'm going to lose the friendship. But then I thought he deserved to know. And it was, for a couple of days, I really didn't go through that. I told him and I said, what, maybe if you don't like me, then let's break off this friendship and let's not meet each other, because we used to hang around everywhere, partying, going for games and, having food and all of that. We used to go together and with others as well. But, our friendship was really good in that way where I felt he needed to know. And when I told him, that's your call, and I avoided him for a couple of days because I was feeling a little crappy. One of the days he just barged into my room and he said, what the hell is wrong with you? Why do you really have to do this? And he said, what, everybody has a type of person that they get attracted to. I like girls who are a little bit on the heavier side. I really like that because they are full. And then there are like guys who like girls with, long hair, short hair. The choices are different. I mean, I don't get it right now that, you like guys, so be it, but never ever bring our friendship into this. When he said that, and I felt like, oh my good Lord, what was I really thinking? I thought of the worst possible moment, and here he comes and accepts me for who I am, though I have my choices and differences. But, that gave me the courage. That really lifted my spirits in a lot of ways, so.
Are you both still as good as friends as you were back
Yes.
in school?
Yes, very much. He's one of best friends in the US, and his name is Vinayak. I'm for sure I'm going to send him this recording after this, and I hope he's going to feel happy. He's like, oh my God, why did I make that mistake, of being friends with you? We're stuck for life. Yeah,
That's
I mean, he's been there through all my ups and downs through my life. He knows pretty much everything, and yeah, I mean, he's been rock solid. So he's one of those, very important people in my life. And I know for a fact that his wife does get jealous of our friendship because, we share that bond, that conversation at the spur of the moment. I can say anything and doesn't get offended, while anybody else says that, he does get offended. But, with me, it's a different bond altogether. So, yeah. Stuck for life. So yeah, Vinayak, if you're listening to this, yes, you're stuck for life with me and vice versa. So with that enhanced, confidence and all of that, finished graduation and then moved on, came to Bangalore, started off my job. It was not an easy one, but I said I'm going to continue and go on. So that's wherein it really came in where for the first 10 years of my life, I was not out because for me, I thought personal life and professional life have to be kept aside, and there is no two ways about it. So I continued to do that for as much time as possible until the time when I had to come out. Again, I had to come out because my parents decided, "Chalo, beta, you have to get married now. It's time for your marriage. You've reached that age where you are supposed to settle down. Enough of being single." And all of that. And for me, it was very important. But during that time, I figured myself out. I knew who I was. And I made this decision that I will never, ever mess up a girl's life for no fault of hers.
yeah.
Right? Because being in a patriarchal society that we are in right now, unfortunately, we just, as a man, we have the privilege, and as a woman you don't have a privilege. A lot of times women don't have a say in marriages, while guys do have. So for me, it was very important that I say no to a marriage because, for no fault of hers, she doesn't deserve to be married to somebody who can never be attracted. Yes, emotionally I can be there, but physically it's not going to be there. So why should she go through that? And in the long run, it's going to be six people's lives that are going to get hampered. So I said, by me saying no, can I really put a full stop to this? Then I had to come out to my parents. Not easy, but then I had to do it because that's the right thing to do. And when I came out, my parents were like all like, completely like, what's happening? Why you? Why me? And all of those questions came in 3 months up and down. We were going past, but then I had to do it. I was also ready, with my bag packed just in case if I'm getting kicked out by my parents. I'd called my best friends and told them, what, if my parents are kicking me out, I'm coming and staying in your place and all of that. But my parents didn't really do that. For them, they didn't understand this whole concept, but I realized that they love me as what they really think, and they were not able to relate to this. They blamed themselves for a lot, but I said, what, I'm going to be there with you all to understand, go through with this journey with you all. So even now they are with me. I'm in a room, probably they are listening to whatever I'm saying, but all these years they have not let me do something that is not right. So I've been very clear and upfront that I cannot do this because of messing up a girl's life for no fault, and this is the right thing to do. Truth can be bitter and hard to digest, but it is the right thing to do. So we went through a whole process, and I felt relieved at the end of the process because I was able to be my true self. So now there was no stopping. And with that, again, renewed support. The confidence that I had, I came out to everybody at office after attending a Pride March, and I was super, super, happy with that. But even before that, quick story. Yes.
Were you already at HP?
Yes, I was very much at HP during that time. So I came out to my manager, my ex-man. He's still working for HP, but he's in a different department now. So I came out to him because I was planning to go for this Pride March, and I knew pictures are going to be clicked. And what if I get clicked, and what if it comes on newspaper? So I was like, oh my God, I need to tell him. And I was super scared again because he's a Roman Catholic. So I don't know if he's going to accept it, not accept it, what mindset he is going through and all of that. But then I said, you know what, I'm going to say it. And I did come out to him, and the reaction again was very surprisingly different. He was very supportive, and he was right through with me. He said, Suresh, I think it's a personal decision. I mean, it's a personal thing, but I'm happy you're sharing that with me. And at any point you have any problems or any concerns, because I know how this is looked upon in India, I am there for you. For anything that goes wrong for you, come back to me, and I'm going to be the first person to help you and support you for that. But at the same time, do your work so great that people don't talk about your sexual orientation, but they talk about your work, because that's what work is all about, right? So do your work that great. But at the same time, you have any problems, come back to me. And even he did a little bit of awareness session, in my absence. Not completely in my absence, but there were a couple of other people in my team who were not there, who were absent at that point of time. And he took the entire rest of the team to a team huddle, and he spoke about it, that we have to be inclusive, aware, which I never knew, like 4 months after me coming out is when I got to know that he did this, right? So I was like a little bit blown away with the fact that he really took that step forward, even without me talking about it. So I've been like a lucky person in that ways, where, at work, I was completely accepted. And I did a Facebook live event, and I came out to everybody after the Pride March, because I felt happiest. And the dream that I had was also very vividly clear, very clear in my head, that I was at the edge of a cliff and I was shouting out loud that I'm gay and I'm happy and I'm proud. And I can see all people below me who are my school friends, who are my, college friends, and some people from the community, I mean, from my work, who are all cheering and saying, go Suresh, we're very proud of you. And with that smile, I opened my laptop the morning and I did a live event. I came out, I closed the laptop, and I said, I'm going to go to work. And I've just got only love. I don't know if people have bitched about me behind my back, not my concern. And I cannot be anywhere close to what they think. But in front of me, they have been genuine or accepting of who I am. So with that good intent, I've been going forward. So that really motivated me to do so much at HP. Started off with the LGBT chapter out there, because I said, yeah, I'm out now. I think I need to do something for the people in the community, and let's do it. My leadership has been amazingly supportive. My managers, the leaders in India, though they didn't understand or know much about it, they said, you know what, Suresh, let's go with it. I think that's the right thing to do. During this whole process, help us understand and educate us. That's what we would ask, so that we don't do the wrong things. Let's do the right things and make sure that we are clear. So we did quite a lot at HP, and I wanted to do more. So that's where my community work really kicked in, and I started doing some work there. But during that time is when also I found my partner. The June is a very special month for us. It's not only the Pride month for me. So that's when I met my partner as well. His name is Soham. So this is our 4th year. 30th of June is our anniversary date. And I want to share this because of the fact is, I know a lot of people think that, same-sex partners are not there, and, they are all very promiscuous, they're very sexual. And I don't get that. Where does that come from? But, I just love him. He loves me. We want to be together and spend all our time together. So we are in that phase, and, it's very important for me to talk about him. And he's also been another rock solid support in my life. Right. So whatever in the last 4 years that I've been growing leaps and bounds is all through with his support as well. So I know I'm just kind of overboard the time. I'm going to be a little quick on this. So I continued with my community services. So, going to schools and colleges, talking about things, trying to break stereotypes. So, the second picture where I'm trying, tennis is my passion, and breaking stereotypes is another thing that I'm really passionate about. So both came together, and I got the opportunity to do a photo shoot. And it was very important to tell people that you can be who you really want to be, and there is no stopping. Right. And I took a lot more special interest for the transgender community people, because I know how they go through. I was transphobic. I can be, honest about it. My initial days, because of the environment and because of the social construct, even I was transphobic. But when I got to interact with them, when I got to know them, hear their stories, what they're going through, I was like totally taken aback for a fact that, I'm so privileged sitting here and kind of talking about my sad stories. The trans community have gone through a lot more worse things. And, among the spectrum, this is my personal, thought process, and I want to go with that, is that LGBTQ in that spectrum, I think trans people really need to be uplifted in our Indian society. Across the world, yes, everybody needs to get the rights, but I think trans people really need that support. And I'm doing as much as possible that I can do to get them on board. So, when I talk to people in various organizations, I tell them, make your organization more trans friendly. There are people on the streets who are graduates and are begging and are selling their body just to have, put 3 meals on the table for no fault of theirs. Right. So that is something which deeply moved me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to really work for that. And working towards a lot of those conversations and going around to take that forward is when, there's an opportunity for me to participate in Mr. Gay India. That was my turning point in a lot of aspects, is because I wanted to break stereotypes that 37 and a brown guy, a dark skinned guy in India, who's bald and who's part of the IT. Can he do something like this in an environment or a situation where it's called pageant, right, in India? Because pageantry has a different mindset in India as well. It's only for people who want to do modeling and not anything else, and they want to get into movies. But for me, the intent was, what can I do for the community? Because this is for the community, and with this, can I go ahead and reach out to many more people? With no intent of winning, I wanted to give my best. And when I won, when I got the trophy, it took me back to my childhood. So the reason why it took me back to my childhood was the initial days when there was a lot of bullying, a lot of thing, I really didn't want to live. So I did try to kill myself, not once, but 3 times. Because it was, getting too much for me and I didn't want to. The third time, something told me within that, Suresh, there is don't do this, for a simple fact is that there is something bigger there for you. I was God-fearing that time. I was questioning God and saying, like, why are you doing this and all of that. Something within me said, don't do this, there is a bigger purpose. I didn't really get to know that. But that day onwards, I promised myself I'm never going to think about this ever again, no matter what happens, right? So I am going to be there. I am going to go ahead and fight it out. So that's why I fought out everything that I could do, everything, anything. So they bullied me, they harassed me. I said, you know what, I'm going to live through with this, because I've almost kissed death and come. So nothing can shake me off. Okay. So with that whole process that I went through, when I won the title, then I got to know that what my purpose in life is. Then the jigsaw puzzle or the pieces really fell in place. And I realized that, and I was like, you know what, now I know what to do in life. And that is something for the community and something to do for, to spread awareness for the community.
Suresh, quick question.
Yes.
Is the picture with your parents? I mean, they look very proud.
Yes. Yes. So that picture is with my parents. So yeah, so after winning all of this, I came back home and I was not quite sure how my parents are going to react, but I know that they were very proud and very happy, because even before going, I did tell them that this is an event and Mr. K India and all of that. I'm just going to participate and all of that. So I could sense that pride in them. I know that my parents still, they look happy, or they're not very supportive in many ways, but I could see that picture where they were happy, and that was a very happy moment there. So with that being said, sorry, one moment. Yeah, so with that being said, I got the opportunity to represent India at Mr. Gay World in in South Africa, Cape Town, which gave me this honor that I was able to represent India. And it is something very proud. And I was one of the top 10 contestants among everybody. So it was great. And I really enjoyed this. And, yeah, slowly things kind of really started settling down, and I was able to understand and get a whole picture. So yeah, so that's my story until now. And for me, it's all about giving back to the community. So I have this privilege of, having my, coming out to my best friend who's there, and then my parents not rejecting me for who I am, and a workplace that has been very supportive, and then finding a partner and trying to do best for the community. So I feel with this privilege and the position that I am, can I kind of really bring a change in the society? Can I really do things for the community which will benefit them? So yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do every day, thinking how can I change, not even bring a change, how much can I bring an awareness to people around me who think that this is a choice and this is a sin, this is against our ethics or religion. Can I bring that change? Because it is very natural. And this is something that, you need to understand and accept, like how you have left-handed people, you have right-handed people, you know. So I always try to bring a lot of analogies and trying to make them understand we are human beings. If 10 fingers in one body are different, then people are different, choices are different. That's why we have many choices. Otherwise we would have, one toothbrush, one toothpaste, one type of rice, one type of drink. Everything would be just very singular, right? So you would not have many choices, but there are choices. That means people have different tastes. Now with that, why do you only resist them with only external options? There are internal options and choices or decisions that people have. Why can't we really allow that to happen? And help, I mean, just accept them for who they are. We are human beings. Every religion speaks about love another human being. Don't hate them. If they do something wrong, if they kill somebody, yes, then there deserves to be some sort of punishment. But just for their choices, I don't think so. It should be hated. They should not be hated, or they should not be killed for the choice of theirs, right? So that's what I kind of try to do every time. And with that, yes, the story is that's the story of my life. And this is somebody that I'm working or trying to help towards is the transgender community people, is this NGO called Sangama. It's one of the oldest NGOs in Karnataka, and they do so much of ground level work, grassroots work for the LGBT community and a lot of other minority communities as well. So yeah, so I would just reach out and ask you all during these tough times if you all can, uh, give some donations. That will be absolutely appreciated, and that will be very helpful for their day-to-day lives. So with that, thank you so much for, I know I went overboard by 11 minutes, but thank you so much for listening and staying on.
Suresh, it's a fantastic story, and I think it's particularly touching that you went from being transphobic to being the biggest ally, to supporting Sangma, to being sort of a champion for their cause. I remember when we first started the conversation about this webinar, Sangama was the one thing that you kept going on and on about how we have to support this organization. So just want to tell you that Rainmaker also is an ally of the community and also of Sangama. We have put up a big sort of banner on our website. We will be reaching out to our clients and our customers and encouraging them to also donate and contribute to Sangma. to help the trans community. So whatever we can do, we are going to do our best to sort of help this community.
Thank you so much, team, and thank you so much to everybody who has been, joining this. So I would again leave this at this thought process. There are two statements. So one is discover, embrace, and be you. Uh, Another statement that I would want to put out there is if anybody says that homosexuality is a choice, then when did y'all decide to be straight? So I would leave that. I mean, with that, I would leave you all with that thought. And in the future, if you question anybody, just bring this up and say that, yeah, when did you all choose to be straight? So thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh. I think we can at this point in time open it up for questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the slide share now and see if we can get the Q&A up. It will take, I think it's going to take a while for people to just absorb, this what they have heard, seen, and learned in the last hour. So I think questions will slowly start coming in as they absorb that. All right, let me just stop this sharing.
Yeah.
And I think I can see a fair bit of questions that have come up. All right. So I'll pick it up from the Q&A box first. Sarika Pradhan is saying, hi Sarika. Dear Suresh, glad to see you here. Would like to know from you the current challenges the community still faces from the different segments of the society.
I think it's, the current challenges are, again, acceptance. I think acceptance is something which is still a long way to go. As I said, again, as a privileged person who is educated and who is living in a city, who's living in a city which is a lot more progressive, like all the metro cities are progressive, and even in those metro cities or even in those big cities, there are certain chunks of the areas which are very inclusive, while the others are still very regressive in their thought process. So it's all about, how much, I think with the law getting away, I think there's a lot more work to be done. But I think the work that we really need to do is about awareness and acceptance, because without accepting people, the pressure of non-acceptance, bullying and harassment and all of that are driving our community people towards another extreme, which is trying to kill themselves, right? And it is something which is happening. A lot of them don't report it. And people who are in that struggle phase, and all of them are trying to really get into a lot of other aspects, like could be substance abuse as well, because there is no acceptance from anybody and all of that. So the biggest challenge is, I think, again, as allies, as people from the cisgendered heterosexual community, we need more allies to come out in the open and talk about the community. Even if you all don't know anything, come step forward. You'll have the mindset of wanting to learn, Google a lot of information, attend pride marches, pride events. 15% of the population is belonging to the LGBT community as per global stats. So we are not a minority, we are very much there. There could be somebody in your family, your blood relative who is from the community, trying to be out there and trying to just be themselves, right? So biggest challenge is acceptance. There's a lot more to it. We need equality. We need, I would say, even marriage equality, because we don't have options of, I cannot get married to my partner even after 4 years, because it is not legal in India. I mean, getting anything is not applicable here. And for the transgender community, even for their gender reassignment surgery, nobody provides benefits. Medical insurance people don't really do anything out there. So there is a lot more work to do. I think the first step is, if it's acceptance, if it comes through that, then nothing like it. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you, Suresh. An anonymous attendee asked if, doesn't A stand for asexual?
Yes, it does
It does.
as well. It
Sexual.
does. It does stand for asexual, but it also, from this perspective, I wanted to kind of call out as allyship because allies are very important. So A also stands for allies.
Angrija is saying it's a wonderful session thus far. Sanjay says, Suresh, take a bow. That was truly inspirational. I agree. Very inspirational. Quick question. You hold a key position with an MNC. You're educated. Does that mean does that mean make it easier to come out versus somebody who is not very educated, holds little or no influence, or almost on those lines? What do you think?
All I can say is that irrespective of where you are in the social structure, which city you're in, even in the most progressive countries, it's still not easy to come out. So for us, it is, it's a battle. No matter how educated or I mean, there are times when I feel that I wish, in certain villages and certain small towns, they completely accept homosexuality. They absolutely are fine with who you are, and then there are absolute amazing places and cities where it is completely regressive. So it is an issue for everybody. So yeah, irrespective of where you are, which place, location, you can see in the US what's happening. It's really difficult, right? So yeah.
Fair enough. Angrija is asking, at my organization, it has been difficult to starting the conversation as most people tend to look the other way. How would you suggest or recommend we can start such conversations at the workplace?
I think in corporations or in organizations, I think the leaders should be educated or bring that awareness to the leaders and then really call it out. And yeah, it should start from there because as leaders they have the power and they are in the position to drive certain behaviors, and it's a culture change. If it cannot, I mean, I feel it's more of a top down approach rather than a bottom up approach. It has to be a top down. The leader should be convinced because then that's where the conversation and the drive and the accountability, all of that gets factored. Now if there is no accountability at the top, then there's not going to be no conversation there. So we have to start with the leaders, with the HR professionals and the D&I specialists if there are, and bring that conversation going there.
So find as many allies as you can in the workplace,
Exactly.
especially leaders, because leaders are the ones who have the ability to influence and make change, right?
Yes.
Perfect. An anonymous attendee has said, not a question, just wanted to let you know that your story got me a bit in tears. Thank you for this wonderful session.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's an understatement, actually. Your story was very, very touching. Did get a lump to my throat as well. So thank you, Suresh. Meenu is asking, please describe a bit more about Ally.
So ally is anybody who has the privilege and who is in a position to go ahead and help and support the underprivileged community and groups, right? So as an ally, so today y'all are all allies. So y'all really taking the first step towards allyship. So be out there, learn more about the community, and be vocal about it. If you see any homophobic jokes being said, so you need to put a stop to it. Like, how men really need to drive the gender conversation, right? In regards to any sexist jokes that are coming in, men have to step in and say that's not the right thing. So that is an ally. A role of an ally is to go ahead and understand your privileges and then take into account how you can make somebody else's life better.
And I think anybody and everybody can and should be allies.
Right.
If you're a bystander, I think every ally should intervene if they see something inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a gender-based joke or a homophobic joke, I think if all of us as allies can step in and maybe prevent that from happening, or at least educate the people that those kind of jokes are definitely not appropriate at the moment.
True.
Okay, fair enough. Mala Thapar is asking, what is important to incorporate in organization in terms of compliance? Not sure if, from a compliance perspective.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe can we take some of these questions? Maybe you can email that out and I can
Yeah,
respond to it. I don't know. I'm
sure.
just keeping tag of the time as well. So that
How
is
much
why.
time do you have, Suresh? Then I'll try and quickly go through. Do you have a hard stop at 5:30?
Yeah, I mean, actually at 5.
At 5? Okay. You will have to take some of the blame for that because you
Yeah,
were.
I know. So
Okay,
that's why I said
I'll,
probably I'll take the questions.
can we wrap up in about 6 or 7 minutes? So
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
at 5:30 because we have a lot of people who are very
I
excited,
know.
very touched, and I want to get some of those questions. Sophia is saying, "Awesome, superb, Suresh. Sophia here. I'm so happy to have connected with you when I met you in Bangalore as being a new ally. I did not know I had met Mr. Gay 2019. Wow." I have a question. Are there still times when you're ridiculed? What is your take on the vast community who need recognition, recognition, and employment, especially the transgenders?
So it's transgender community people or trans people. So yes, I do get ridiculed. I have no idea. I'm for sure there's a lot happening behind my back, and whatever happens behind my back, I don't bother. So I'm for sure it does happen. So what is your take on so recognition and employment is something again which we need to do a conscious effort in making sure that we bring the underrepresented minority communities out there, right? So trans community is somebody which really needs their upliftment. They are nowhere in the same same playground, and kind of talking about equality doesn't really work there. We need to push them up the curve out there. A lot of them have interests, a lot of them are not even educated, but they want to get out of this whole sex job and begging on the streets. So how can we really do that? Can we start employing them in various sectors of the organization and give them an opportunity to learn? There are so many people who want to learn. It's just that they don't have that. A lot of them on the streets go ahead and say, hey, you have 2 hands, 2 legs, and you have a abled body here. What are you doing begging on the streets? But so many of them want to get out of that place, but they are just not able to, for a simple fact is, nobody wants them. Are we anybody want to hire a trans person in our at a home as a as a maid? No. Do we want to keep them as a driver? No. Do we want to give them employment in any possible form? No. But then you want them to get off the streets. End of day, they want to survive. They're human beings. They have a stomach. They feel hungry. They want to eat. So it's not easy. I would always tell people that you know it is very demeaning for no fault of theirs to go out on the streets and beg. And it's not an easy thing, especially when it's poor people or when you see mothers with kids and all of that. You feel a little sympathy and you give money. But for trans people, you just move them, you give them that dirty look and you go away. I would ask you all, just go out there, stand under the hot sun, and put your hands out asking for money. How bad it feels. It is really, really bad. And then you expect them to go ahead and be nice and not get nasty. They do get nasty because they're under the sun 24, I mean, like all day trying to just eat. And when you're hungry, imagine what happens to you. So that's the kind of situation that they're in. And we need to be sympathetic towards them, understand the situation that they're in. And then, yeah, come on. Yeah.
Okay. Couple more questions and then we can wrap up. There are just so many comments of people who are touched and overwhelmed by your story, Suresh. So I'm not going to go into all of them because there are many. So
yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Means a lot. Yeah,
a lot of people. Somali is saying I've been told transgender is a catch-all term, not just for those who have transitioned. Your comment on that. And
yes.
Anuradha says, so Hijra community is intersex or trans? Intersex is more to do with biology, while trans is more to do with orientation. So
Yes. Yeah, so again, Hijra communities are again the transgender communities, which is again a term which is used globally. But Hijra community again are people who have transitioned, and their transgender community is also a bigger umbrella where we try and involve or include intersex people as well. But now they want to get their own representation and have conversations around. So it's important to really demarcate that and start calling out that. transgender community is a huge umbrella term. At times, even queer people come under trans people because they're transitioning and all of that. So yeah, so I mean, it's a huge umbrella. So that's why I said, you know, we are in a spectrum, and a lot of them are trying to identify and understand who they are.
Got it. There are a few more, but I think I realize that you're also running late, and I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Suresh. I look forward to our next session. For those of you, Suresh, what I would request for our next session, which is on July 10th, 4 to 5 p.m. What I would suggest is please keep a little more time and a little more.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Don't keep another meeting at least for after our session. So
Sure.
July 10th, 4 to 5 p.m. for the rest of you, please do join. We're going to actually spend a little bit of time talking about 377, the decriminalization of gay sex, and how the impact it has had on the LGBTQ community, especially from a corporate workplace, right? So we'll touch upon a little bit about the impact it's had on the corporate workplace. And between that session and the session after, we're going to leave thoughts and tips. Suresh is going to give you all a primer on how to make corporate workplaces more LGBT+ friendly. That's really the objective. Policies, things like that. All of those we will cover in the next two sessions. So please make time. Come prepared. If you can do a little bit of reading up, nothing like it. I think Suresh would like to be challenged in the next couple of sessions. So feel free, read up, come prepared, and we promise to make it as interesting as today's was. So Suresh, thank you again. Thank you very much. You've just won a lot of allies for the cause, for the LGBT+ community, and I look forward to the continuing sessions to sort of continue the process and take it to the next level. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. Thanks, Anthony.